Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Helps YouTube Live today um, on October 14th, 2016. Thanks for participating. If you're new to our channel, a special welcome. You notice there's a lot of comments on the chat. People talk amongst themselves, but if you have a question, just put it there. I'll spot it. I'll try to answer your question. And if I don't get it, repeat, say, hey, you missed a question, Eric, and I'll go back and get it. My name's Eric. I've been an attorney now for 46 years, soon to be 47 years in a few days, maybe even now. The founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. And our most important to seniors is, the topic for today I think I put down was, why seniors don't have to worry about debt they can't pay. Because why don't you have to worry? Well, your Social Security is protected, so is your pension, so is your disability, VA benefits, other forms of pensions and retirement are protected by federal and state laws. It's available for your needs. It doesn't need to be used to pay a debt you can't afford to pay. Lawmakers protected that money for a reason. They wanted you to have that money for your food, for your medicine, for your needs. They didn't want seniors to go without food or heat or not have enough money for proper clothes or a proper diet, um, or to pay for medicines. And so they protect that money, okay? And it's even protected in your bank account. We'll talk about that later, how it's protected in your bank account. Even if you get sued, it's protected. Even if you've been sued and you've made arrangements to pay the debt, you don't need to continue, you can stop. Even if you're signed up with a debt management company, after you listen to me and what we talk about, you may decide, I don't need that anymore. It's not necessary. We help everyone that contacts us, anyone that's qualified for our program, we help them. We don't turn anyone away. Okay? So put your questions on the question. Trust you can hear me okay. Um, okay. Um, okay. So this person contacts us from Oregon. Someone put on the chat, make sure that you can let me know you can hear me. I always like to know that. They say age 64, a widow, income is about $1,700 in Social Security. Okay. And has a little IRA. Thank you, Mary. Um, and it was served by a summons for discover. Apparently, they have a judgment. And worried about money in her bank account. Oh, yeah, I talked to her this morning. And eventually, if she needed to buy a car. So here's the deal. She was a helps client, been a client for a couple of years, for several years, more than several years. And I explained to her that your Social Security is protected. You didn't need to worry, even if you were sued by Discover. As long as you just had one account into which your Social Security is deposited, twice that amount is protected automatically by your bank, regardless of what other funds are in there. And so I took 1,700 times 2. How much is that? 3,400. That's protected in your bank automatically. Now, the judgment for I Discover was several years old, and she was worried if she had extra money in there, they're going to take the money. I told her, well, even if you did have extra money in there from your Social Security, you could file a challenge to garnishment or claim exemption. The court would order it be released. But I explained, why are you worried about that? And she says, well, I may need to buy a car someday in the future. And I said, well, what kind of car do you have? And she said, I have a 2008 Honda CRV. I told her, I said, well, we're both going to be dead and gone. And she's 64 before that car goes bad. That car's going to last forever. And she laughed and she said, yeah, Eric, you're right. That is a really reliable car. But even if she did have a problem, she'd be able to buy a car. It won't have an issue. So that's one of the magic things about Helps is when you enroll in Helps, you're literally our client forever. person been a client for over 4 years, maybe over 5 years. So if you ever do have a question, if you ever are worried or scared, you can pick up the phone and you call. Okay, and if you're not a client, you can call us. We can go over your situation with us. Sometimes our clients call us 2, 3, 4, 5 times or even more before they decide to enroll in the helps. We don't put a limit on your calls to us. And we're glad to go over your situation with you. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to understand how you're protected and why you don't need to worry. Okay. Patrick asks, so I have a judgment of $5,000 from Texas, which will be charged 9% interest a year. I live in California, worried that they will come after me years later. While theoretically possible, it will not happen, Patrick. They'd have to transfer the judgment to California, which is a very complicated procedure that costs money. I never see it done. And I know because we help people all over the country, different states. And I've been doing this, like I said, for 46 years. There's a form they have to, they just don't do it. But if you're on Social Security or a pension, they could transfer 1,000 different judgments to California and they wouldn't be able to collect from you. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay. And you don't need to worry about the interest mounting up. If you owe debt, if they have a judgment, I don't care what the amount is. If you're getting protected income like Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefit, that money's protected. It's protected in your bank account, as I explained. You're going to be okay. You don't need to worry. Okay. So Mrs. H asks a question. Mrs. H, can a neighbor sue you for asking you to help them find a company to do some work for them? They didn't like the outcome of the work done by the company. Can they sue you and the company together? Well, I always tell people you can sue anyone for anything in this country. Okay, that's, but winning is a different matter. I kind of doubt they would ever sue you, and it wouldn't matter if they did. I don't see that happening. Okay, I'm not worried about that. But let's say you are sued for a bogus lawsuit, and and you could defend yourself. Okay, I mean you could defend yourself, or if you're getting protected income, like we talk about here on that helps. You might make the decision, I'm not going to do anything. I don't care if they get a judgment. They can't collect from me. They can't do anything. So, but I wouldn't worry about it. They've got enough brains to realize that, people recommend someone to someone. That doesn't make them liable for the fault of someone else. Okay. So Elaine asked, if I have more than one card with a department store, do I need to file both of them? In other words, do I need to include both of them with helps if you're enrolling in helps? I think that's what you're asking, Elaine. Okay. One of the questions we ask people that enroll, do you have a credit card with a small balance or nothing is owed that you still want to keep? And if the answer is yes, said, you can keep that card as long as it's not backed by a bank with whom you have another card um, that you're not going to pay. So the answer to the question would be, yeah, if you've got two cards with a company, a department store, and you're not going to pay one, they're going to shut the other one off because it's backed by the same bank. Maybe it's Synchrony Bank. They back a lot of different department stores. But if you have a card that is backed by a bank and you don't have another card that's backed by that same bank and you keep payment on that card, you could keep that card. Okay. Now you should know too, and I've talked about this before, when people enroll in helps, if you're interested, not a lot of our clients are, but some of them are, you can rebuild your credit. Okay. We have a program called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score, where after you've been part of helps for 90 days, we can send you a link to enroll in that program. We can even send you a link ahead of time that talks about that program. You can get your credit back within a year and a half to 2 years. Believe it or not, your credit is based on your recent credit history. Even if you have a debt that you haven't paid and it's still owing, you can build your credit up to a 700 plus credit score. Okay. It's interesting to note that lawsuits and judgments no longer appear on credit reports. They haven't since about 2018. So you can rebuild your credit if you are interested in that. Now, a lot of our clients they don't care about that. Maybe your income is only $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month, and when you enroll at helps, you don't have to pay that old debt. Maybe that's enough to be able to live on. Or if you have an existing credit card that's small that you want to keep, you can keep current on that card. There's no reason why you wouldn't keep that card. Like I said, unless it's backed by a bank with whom you have another card you're not going to pay. Now, in bankruptcy, um, all your credit is shut off. Whether you owe someone anything or not, the the banks and the credit card companies subscribe to a service that lets them know if someone filed bankruptcy, and they cut your credit off. With helps, you can preserve your credit. If you have a child as inheriting your home, can that be considered as an adult child's property if they get divorced? Not until, not unless they passed away, unless you passed away um, before the divorce and they got the property. But if it's anticipated that they would get the property, then yeah, it could factor in for a divorce. Okay. And that's a kind of an interesting question. Okay. Sometimes I tell people about, adding the children's name to a home as joint owners with rights of survivorship. If you thought that you had a child that was going to have a weak marriage and a divorce might be a possibility, you might not want to do that. You might want to take care of other things. Okay. Um, okay. Happy ask, is a red light violation issued by a computer legal? How do I get it dismissed? I can't afford to pay it. Oh my. Well, I've had that happen to me, so I know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, it probably is legal. I don't know how to get it dismissed. You could research on the internet. May be possible, may not be. Court would probably give you an option to, if you go to court, and they may reduce the fine or give you an option to pay it at a very small amount each month. Okay. The problem, if you don't pay it, it could eventually result in a problem with your driver's license, which makes it kind of sketchy. Now, if you're not driving anymore and you don't have a driver's license, you don't need to worry about it. Does being on Social Security, Emily asks, automatically make you judgment proof? Why should or I shouldn't someone file for currently not collectible status? Two questions there. Well, being on Social Security doesn't automatically make you judgment proof. Um, if you had other income, that they could get at, but if your other income is a pension, IRA, 401k, veterans benefits, those are all protected monies, and that combined with Social Security can't be taken from you. It's available. And then the other question is, do you have assets that a creditor could get at? Well, it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors, if they were to sue you and get a judgment, to go after your other assets. The most they would ever do, and even that is fairly rare, is try to garnish your bank account. And I've already explained how twice the amount of your federal benefits deposited in your bank account is automatically protected from garnishment, regardless of what funds are in there, where they came from. So if you got $1,500 in Social Security, $3,000 is protected in your bank account. And just keep the balance less than that. You don't even have to worry about that unless someone sued you and got a judgment. Now, are they going to come after your car if you have equity in the car over and above the amount that's protected under your state law that's exempt? No, they're not going to do that. Now, is it theoretically possible? It is, but they don't. And I know, I'm old enough, been doing this long enough to know that it just doesn't happen. So, so why should or shouldn't someone file for currently not collectible status? That's a real good question. So currently not collectible status is if you owe income taxes to the IRS. We're talking about the IRS here. Okay. You can file for what's currently not collectible status. Now, if you owe a small amount of taxes, you might choose not to do anything. The IRS may not do anything. The most the IRS would ever do to a senior, and even that would be rare, is send you a notice saying they intend to offset 15% of your Social Security after 60 days. That would give you time to contact the IRS and apply for currently not collectible status. So if you're a single person, have income of approximately $2,500 or less, or a couple with income of approximately $3,500 or less, or maybe even a little more, you can apply for currently not collectible status. Now, the lower income you are, the closer to the poverty line, you can often get on currently not collectible status by just calling on the IRS on the phone, waiting for an hour and a half or 2 hours, maybe even longer nowadays because they're getting laid off, to pick up the phone, and they can put you on currently not collectible status. But do you need to do that now? Well, if you owe a small amount of taxes, the IRS may never do anything about it. Okay, and once again, they're going to give you a notice before they intend to offset 15% of Social Security to give you time to apply for currently not collectible status. We have emails that talk about that. Okay, now if you owe the state income taxes, state taxes are just like credit card debt or other debt. They cannot take your Social Security. They cannot take your pension. They cannot take your IRA. And it's protected in your bank account up to twice the amount of your federal benefits you get each month, times 2. Just like a debt for a judgment for a credit card is protected in your bank account. So for a lot of seniors, if they owe state taxes, they don't need to worry about it. And you can always call and talk to us. Remember, press the like button if you like this. Subscribe to our channel. Tell people about us, because a lot of seniors don't know the information I'm talking to you about today. They have no idea. Okay, they don't get this information other places, but the information is true, and you're going to be fine. Don't need to worry. Does adding a child's name to a homestead property title before or after a default judgment for a credit card matter? No judgment yet, but I want. So if you added someone's name to the property after a judgment, since the judgment was before the person's name was added to the property, that judgment would remain a lien, so that when you passed away, the property goes to your child. Since the judgment was on the property, since the judgment was in existence before the child has their name on the property, the judgment would still be a lien. So if you were going to do that, you'd probably want to add their name onto the property before they got a judgment. Okay? Will the lien stick forever? Well, it depends on the state. Okay? If you own the property with someone else with rights of survivorship, and then you pass away, and that person's name was on the property before the judgment, when you pass away, the judgment lien goes away. It disappears. See, a judgment is not a lien on a specific piece of property. A judgment is a lien on property that you own. And if you die, you no longer own the property. You're dead. The property goes to the survivor. Like if a husband and wife own the property together, and a judgment against the husband, and then he dies. When he dies, the property goes to the wife. That judgment disappears. See, a judgment lien is not like a mortgage lien where they put down the legal description of the property, the meets amount, lot so and so, block so and so, whatever it is. Okay, a judgment is done when a title company, you go to sell a property, they can see that the judgment is that exists on the court records. Okay. When a senior, Miss H asks, when a senior bought a home and made payments and they live in an unlimited homestead estate, so that could be like, well, quite a few states, Texas, Florida, the Dakotas, Oklahoma, Kansas, list goes on. Okay. They can't continue to make house payments. Can they file bankruptcy to help keep the home or lose the home? Well, they could file bankruptcy for different reasons. Whether that makes sense or not depends, but if you owe a mortgage on the home, bankruptcy is not going to wipe out your mortgage. Now, it could technically wipe out the debt, but the mortgage company still has a lien on the home, and they could foreclose on the home if you don't make the mortgage payment. So filing bankruptcy in an unlimited homestead exemption where you have a mortgage is going to allow you to keep the home without having to pay the mortgage, is the bottom line. Okay? Catwing says, if you have your house in a trust going to adult child, could that be considered property in a divorce? Depends on the trust. Most of these trusts that attorneys sell to people are a revocable trust. It means if you want a child to have the property and then you change your mind, you can revoke that. So the answer is probably going to be no, it's not going to be an issue. Okay? So property in Florida, judgments against both. Florida's an interesting state in a lot of ways with property judgments. So if you have a judgment in Florida, it's under a certain amount of acres, okay, Florida has an unlimited homestead exemption, which means if you want to sell the home, you can file a paper with the court that gives you, I think, 6 months to sell the home, and you could do another one, and then you can sell the home, and if there's a judgment lien, it disappears. It goes away. So the only way a judgment could be a problem on a home is after you die. But if you sold the home before you die, you could get that judgment lien removed, so you would get all the money from the proceeds from the sale of the home. And you can call and talk to us about that. But in Florida, you can get the judgment lien removed. And there's other states too where that's possible. Okay. So this person contacts us from Virginia. Okay. My husband passed away over 2 years ago. And the IRS sent me his outstanding debt of $8,000, but it was filed under his name only. Well, you don't have to pay it. It's his debt only. It says the IRS is wanting me to pay this debt, another IRS debt of $5,000. Both of the debts are for 21 and 22. I don't know what this person's thinking that they're going to have to pay that debt. They're not going to. It's owed by the husband. He's dead. Okay. I'm on disability SSI and have my late husband's pension and barely making a living paying the mortgage and other debts. I could really use your help. So if the IRS filed a lien, which I very much doubt they did, it's too small of an amount of money. When he died, that lien's going to go away. This person doesn't need to worry about paying the IRS for her husband's debt. Okay. Now, if she's on it with her husband, her income is so low, doesn't have to pay it. IRS is probably not going to do anything to collect from her. And if they were, she could get on currently not collectible status, like I explained earlier today. So she's not going to need to worry. And she says, I could really use your help. Well, that's what we're here for. If you're like this person who writes this and they say, I could really use your help, you call us, 855-435-7787, and talk to us. Okay, I've got attorneys and paralegals on the line right now talking with people. Okay, if we can't talk to you right then, we'll call you back and get on our website and send an inquiry on the internet. Okay, fill out a little form. Okay, and we're going to ask you some questions about your situation. We need to do that to know how to help you. Like, I'm going to ask you, are you married or are you going to single? How old are you? What's your source of income? Have you been sued? Are you buying a home or renting? What's the home worth? Buying a car, own a car. And how much do you think you owe in debt? Do you owe the IRS any money? Do you owe any student loans? And then we're going to explain what we do and how we help people. And then we can send you emails that talk about different areas that concern you. We've got like 400 to 500 preloaded emails on all kinds of areas where we help seniors that are struggling financially. So don't hesitate to call if you have a question. You can get off of this YouTube and call us right now if you want. Okay. But the beauty about helps is, okay, so I did all kinds of law up to 2012, and since about 1986 to 2012, I did bankruptcy, and then started helps in 2012 because seniors would come to me to file bankruptcy, and I would tell them, you don't need to file bankruptcy. You can't afford to file bankruptcy. Why? Why don't you need to file? Because your income is protected. No one's going to come after your assets. You're going to be okay. But I know when I sent them home, creditors could call and make their lives miserable. And so with helps, we represent people under what's called a federal law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And one provision of that law provides if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors legally can no longer call or send you demand letters anymore. They have to leave you alone. So when you enroll in helps, you give us the creditors you don't want to hear to talk to anymore, the debt collectors, and then we need the name, address, account number. We don't need the balance. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter telling them that we represent you for purposes of communication. We don't give legal advice. We don't represent people in court. Okay. We just send them that letter that says, hey, if you got a question for these people, you call and talk to us because they can't afford to pay it. And we explain how your income is protected. And then they're going to leave you alone. And then you're a client literally forever, so that if a year or 6 months, 2 years down the road, you get another notice from a new debt collector, maybe they sell it to someone else, you get that information to us. We're going to send a cease and desist letter to that new debt collector. We're going to leave you alone. If you happen to get sued, which you could, doesn't matter if you are, we're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued you. We're going to let them know that your income is protected. You're not going to do anything, and they can get the judgment. Remind them of the protected nature of your bank account. But remember, your bank account is automatically protected by your bank without you having to do anything, up to an amount equal to twice the amount of federal benefits you get, even if other monies are in that account at the time of a garnishment. So you can always call and talk to us. We're going to answer your questions. We don't want you to worry. Okay? So here's a note from one of our attorneys, the attorney that always calls our clients sweet. And the person's from Kentucky. She starts out by saying, a sweet man that has his hands full. That would be a good topic. That would be a good way to start one of our YouTube live videos. Senior with hands full of debt. Okay. She had completed the intake and read our paragraphs, quoted the fees, and we enrolled him. She says, I lowered the fees because he can't afford much of anything. He is 77 years old. And his daughter talked him into buying a home that is very hard for him to afford. And apparently she helps him with the house payment. He's afraid that she will pass away before he does, so he does not have a lot on his plate. So he does have a lot on his plate. We talked to him. Both him and his daughter are a deed on the home. His debt is all credit cards. He's been on Social Security for many years because of an injury. A very nice man that is thankful for what we do for him and others. We're going to be able to help him and answer his questions. No matter what happens in his situation, if the daughter dies before him, we'll be able to talk to him. He'll be okay. We'll know what to do. Okay? If you have two bank accounts, are they both covered? Only the bank account into which the Social Security is deposited is covered, or the federal benefits, like a VA benefit or a federal pension. Twice the amount is covered in that specific account, not the savings account, unless that's where the money goes. Most people, it should go into the checking account. So if you have a different bank account other than the account into which your Social Security goes, that account technically is not automatically protected in case of a garnishment. But once again, you don't need to worry about that, Elaine, unless someone has sued you and had a judgment. If they haven't been sued, you can have 100 different bank accounts. But if you're sued, then you're going to want to have one account and try to keep the balance less than twice the amount of your federal benefit you get each month. That way, if you happen to get garnished, then what happens is the bank, if they get a writ of garnishment, there's a department in the bank that looks at where your money came from. There's a code on the deposit. If it came from a federal source, then they times that times 2, and they protect that amount, even if some of the money in your account at that time came from somewhere else. All they have to do is look at where the money came from. If it came from a federal source, times 2. We don't need to worry about if you had money that came from another source. Now, your bank manager doesn't know that rule. I guarantee the clerk behind the desk at the bank doesn't know that rule, but there's a department in the bank that knows that rule. And I would guess that 999 out of 1,000 attorneys don't know that rule yet, even though it's been in effect since 2012. Okay? So this person contacts us from New York. He's 62, gets Social Security and a pension. They first contacted us in January of this year. After losing my job, I went into credit card debt. In order to be protected, I turned 62 in February. In order to be protected from debt collection, do I have to be collecting Social Security or does age only account? Well, it doesn't matter the age. It depends on the source of income. Okay. Not sure if I should officially retire or file bankruptcy. As an older educator, it's been difficult getting a permanent teaching position. Okay. So we sent him some emails that talk about helps with what we do. We sent him an email that talks about bankruptcy versus helps. A lot of seniors simply don't need to file bankruptcy. They can't afford to file bankruptcy. But occasionally we will tell someone bankruptcy does make sense. Not very often. And I don't hesitate doing that. I talked to someone today. He called, he's in a chapter 13 and had some issues. We talked about a solution and I told him, frankly, staying in the chapter 13 makes sense for you in this particular circumstance. And I told him to contact his attorney and maybe he could modify the plan in such a way that it would work out for him. Okay, so we give legal information. We don't get legal advice. I pointed him right back to his attorney that does the bankruptcy. And then this guy that talked to us in January called us in February again. And finally, he talked to us, looks like today, this morning, and enrolled in helps. So it took him, from January to October. And that's not uncommon. There's probably at least a dozen phone calls or emails, at least more than that, where we communicated with him. And he had some questions, he called back. So we want people to feel comfortable before they enroll in helps. We don't have any problem with that. These questions are what we give people is legal information, and it's pretty easy to give that to people. So he's totally relieved now. So Sunset asks, the condo is in my brother's name and elderly mom's name. Would she get the senior tax rate? Well, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing she would. She would say, hey, listen, my brother's name is on there for inheritance purposes. In most states, I found that they can get the senior tax rate even if someone else's name is on the home. I don't know specifically for that. She can call and talk to them. And if she gets a negative answer, she may want to do some more research because sometimes the clerk doesn't know everything. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about is Sunset in certain states, you can, if you're a senior, you can apply to get a reduction in your property taxes you pay if you're buying a home. Okay? And I encourage people to look into that. Got your county, your state, you search Google discount for property taxes on property I'm buying, something like that, on real property, on land. And they'll pop up with websites and answers to questions, okay, on how to get that for your state. A lot of states do that. Now, you usually have to be a senior and have income under a certain amount. So this person, age 65, contacted us from Pennsylvania. She gets Social Security and she gets part-time wages as a temp. Sole proprietor, I guess. Struggling with credit card debt. And she has an IRA, independent retirement account. Now, IRAs are protected under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. They can't be taken or garnished from you, as is 401ks. Different types of private retirement funds are protected. She's current on her debt. So discussed updating creditor profiles. She got a divorce during COVID. She's applied for Section 8 housing. That's for housing for seniors that have lower incomes. There's a waiting list, and she's on the waiting list. And we sent her an email on how to get moved up on the waiting list. That's possible sometimes. And this person has her debts being paid automatically by ACH from her bank account. And we sent her an email how to stop that. Because when she learned what we do and that she didn't have to pay this debt, she made a decision, I can't afford to pay this anymore. I need to stop. Okay. And that's one of the form emails we have to send to people on how to stop paying the debt. Okay. She has a couple burial plots. She wants to donate them. We discussed about that. I don't know if you're really poor on something like that, maybe you want to sell them, get some money. Don't necessarily need to donate. You could donate, but you don't need to. And looks like she enrolled in helps. Okay. So Judy comments that in Michigan, if she was told if she adds someone's on, she want to get a break in certain taxes. And that may be the case. This person contacts us from Pennsylvania. They get Social Security and then of $2,100 and then a pension of $2,300. Or maybe each of them get a pension. I don't know. And they're buying a home owned jointly. The debt is in her name, not in her husband's name. But our paralegal, whoever said, but he was an active participant in the discussions when they talked with helps. We completed the intake, we read what we did, and enrolled them. Lots of good questions. We went over everything several times, which we're happy to do. When you enroll in helps, we want you to understand completely this. We're going to educate you. That's one reason we have this YouTube live session, because our mission is to protect seniors from collector harassment, but our second mission is to educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. So that's one reason we have these YouTube live videos. She'd been with Beyond Finance for about a year, paying $400 a month. Well, I bet she was never told by Beyond Finance that her income was protected and her pension was protected. She also paid a $10,000 lump sum to settle a debt, but then she was sued, so the money was not sent to the creditor. She's going to cancel with Beyond Finance and request all funds they are holding. We emailed her. We have a bunch of emails on debt management, debt settlement companies. I fight with these companies all day long. And when I say I fight with them, I inform seniors about these companies, how many of them are dishonest or frauds when it comes to seniors because they won't tell a senior that their income is protected. There are some exceptions. We have one company that refers us cases that's a debt settlement, debt management company, but vast majority don't do that. Even the nonprofit ones don't tell seniors about their protected income. And we have one, they sent her one email called the hidden trap of debt settlement. And she goes on to say that they have a number of bank accounts. We went over this in detail and emailed her how bank accounts are protected from garnishment. Says she understands she will only have one bank account, one checking account, one bank checking account where her Social Security and her husband's Social Security and her federal pension are directly deposited, along with her non-federal pension. She will move her name or close the other accounts. Good. She and her husband are joint deeds on their homes. In other words, they own it together with survivorship rights. They have two vehicles that are free and clear. We're going to deal with those. They had filed an answer to a lawsuit from Chase Bank, but they're no longer going to try to defend that lawsuit because they own that money. She does. We're going to send a, they're enrolled in helps. We're going to send a letter out to the attorney that sued them, let them know that their income is protected. And we sent also an email, talks about this, called Do I Have to Go to Court? Which explains why you don't have to go to court. Another one, it's called What Happens When a Helps Client is Sued. And another one on Homes and Judgments. It's a link to a YouTube video that we did. Oh, I'm laughing because the last sentence says, when she enrolled and we were done, she said her chest pain is gone. Nice lady. Okay. Her chest pain. Yeah, I imagine helps does resolve a lot of chest pains for seniors. I'm happy. We're always happy to do that, to talk to you and make sure you don't need to worry. And remember, if you do worry, we want you to call us. Okay. I've said this many times. My pet peeve, if someone is worried or scared and have a question, they can always pick up the phone and call us, no matter how often. Okay? So we don't want you to worry. Who was the gentleman you had on your channel talk about reverse mortgage? Okay, a little senior moment there. Ken Krajewski. If you're got questions on reverse mortgages, call us. We'll send you an email, and I got one with a link to his link to where you can call him personally and talk to him about your situation. I talk to a lot of seniors where a reverse mortgage can make sense. Sometimes I'll tell a senior I'll mention a reverse mortgage and say, I don't want that. And I'll ask them why, and they don't know why, but they just heard something bad. For some seniors, a reverse mortgage is an answer to prayer and can solve a lot of problems. But and you can call and talk to us too. We don't sell reverse mortgages. I don't give a darn whether you get a reverse mortgage, but I do give a darn if you need a reverse mortgage, and I understand that you could help you. I do give a darn that I want to tell you about it and let you investigate it and make the decision whether that makes sense for you. And a lot of times it does. Okay. Um, is a will or trust done online a good idea? Well, maybe not. Could depend. We actually have an email that we can send to people to do your own will. But the vast majority of seniors that enroll in helps probably even don't need a will. Okay, for a lot of different reasons. A lot of them maybe don't own any real property, which means a home. Or if they do own a home, someone else's name on the property. When they die, it automatically goes to someone else, and their personal property isn't worth a whole lot of money. So there's really nothing to probate. And especially if they got on Medicare or Medicaid down the road, Medicaid, maybe their bank account, maybe they have someone else on their bank account with them. So sometimes a will isn't absolutely necessary for a senior. Often it isn't. Sometimes I'll read websites where it says you have to have a will. No, that's not true. My husband owes so much money to the IRS. What can we do about this? I'm scared they might make me pay. He has delivered damage. He can no longer work. Well, Julie, you can call us on the phone. 855, the number down here, 855-435-7787, and talk to us about your situation. I'm sure that's not going to be an issue with your husband and the IRS taxes. And if the taxes were owed only by him, he owes it, not you. And even if you owe the taxes and you get Social Security, it's highly unlikely you're going to be required to pay those taxes. So talk to us. And there's not going to be a problem with him either if he can't work now. You can get on currently not collectible status. We'll go over this. Okay? You don't need to worry, but talk to us. Asking for my late brother's widow. Can a debt collector go after a gun collection in New Jersey where we have tough gun laws? Um, as a practical matter, no. I don't know even how they know about the guns. They'd have to file extremely complicated paperwork to go after guns. In 46 years of practice, 30 to 40,000 bankruptcies, helps for the last, 15 years, 14 years, 13 years, whatever it is. I've never seen a creditor go after a gun. Well, maybe I have. I've seen a problem being a bankruptcy, but not a creditor that gets a judgment against someone. Okay? Well, I don't, one of our, I mean, I speak a little bit of Spanish, Julie, but um, uh, uh, one of our receptionists who's worked with us for many years, Beatrice speaks Spanish, and you can call and talk to Beatrice, and she can explain this. We have some emails in Spanish too that we can send you that talk about helps. When we're big enough someday, we'll have more stuff in Spanish. But right now, we're not that big. I mean, we're big. We got tens of thousands of clients, but my goal is for helps to have millions of clients. We should have millions of clients because there's that many seniors that need this help. If an attorney already filed suit for a credit card debt and before the date to appear they receive a notice I'm in helps, is there any chance they will drop the suit or continue to pursue it? Well, they could, but it doesn't matter if they do or they don't. Okay? It's not unusual when we send a letter to an attorney that filed a lawsuit for them to dismiss the case. It's not common, but it's not totally unusual. It does happen. Okay. But once again, you don't need to worry. You could be sued by a million different creditors and have a million different judgments. If your income is protected, it's protected. Don't need to worry. My gas company called on Friday and said the meter wasn't reading since last year. They just let us know. Should we be responsible to back pay? Well, how are they ever going to figure out how much your back pay is? I don't know. If it's their fault, they own the meter. They control the meter. And if they didn't monitor the meter so that it's working, I don't know how they're going to say you're responsible for the bill. Or, but if they try to make it based on an average, you could contest that, I think. But be interested in what happens. I'd be interested in you let me know what happens on that. Okay. Appreciate all the questions today. This person contacts us from Texas. Talked to one of our paralegals. They received a summons from Portfolio Recovery for a Barclays debt. They also owe Bank of America. Total amount is $30,000 on different credit cards. The husband isn't on her accounts. Buying a home with her husband with joint owners with rights to survivorship. They don't want to lien on the home. Read paragraphs and quoted fees. She wants to try to work out a deal with Portfolio, emailed basic information, needs to think about her options. Then she called to enroll. Well, I didn't write it down, but if I remember right, this person lives in Texas. So if you live in Texas, sure, they can sue you and get a judgment. But if you go to sell the home, there's a form you can file to get that lien removed and get all the money from the proceeds of the sale. And then if the judgment is just against the wife and the wife dies before the husband, then the property goes to the husband and the lien drops off, because the lien is only against property owned by the person that the judgment is against. And if you die, then you no longer own the property because it transfers automatically to your spouse, the husband in this case, and therefore that judgment lien disappears. So we'll talk to them about that. So person contacts us from Georgia. They get Social Security and a pension. They must get Social Security disability because they're age 60 and they're renting. It says they retired in 2019. Got tangled up in debt settlement. We discussed debt consolidation and not paying the debt. We explained how her income was protected and that she didn't need to worry about the creditors. We sent her a bunch of emails. Who we help, bank account garnishment rules, why seniors' income is protected, debt consolidation in seniors. So we've got all kinds of emails on different topics that we can send people that have links to articles and videos from helps that explain these things. So if you have questions, call us. Okay. So in September, one of our nice attorneys, we're all nice, but this is particularly nice attorney, called back, completed all the intake, read the paragraphs, and quoted fees. And she puts out, she is a talker, which is okay. And that's a term. She is a talker and would like to give lots of details about many things, but a very nice lady. For this attorney, everyone she talks to is a nice person. Okay. I emailed her following bells and whistles account, how bank accounts are protected from garnishment, debt settlement, the hidden trap. She is currently in debt consolidation program, paying $957 in each month for 60 months. Oh my gosh. She has a vehicle worth about, it's free and clear. She said she's going to pray about it, read the bells and read our emails, and call us back on Friday. Well, she didn't call back Friday, but she looks like she called back on the October 10th a couple times. Looks like she had sold her home and now rents, owns a car outright. She has some money's deposited in different areas. We talked to her about cleaning that up so the money's safe. And then it looks like we called her yesterday and enrolled her, or she called us and enrolled her. And she's happy. Solved her problem. Her problems are solved. She doesn't need to worry. And that's what if you've got questions, you call us on the phone. Don't want you to be worried. So this person contacts us from California. Their only income is $1,100 in Social Security, $35,000 in debt, and their age is 68. Excuse me. Sorry about that. She lives with a family she nannied before she got sick. Doesn't have a car. Well, that's nice. She nannied the kids and they're letting her live there. She doesn't have a lot of money. There's a lot of good people in this world that help other people out. She has 2 bank accounts and individual stocks she's going to clean up. Okay. Had a bank account levy from Bank of America. We emailed her the California claim of exemption form that she could fill out to get the money released because it came from Social Security that was in her bank account. Apparently, she may have had money in a bank account that came from Social Security but wasn't a bank account to which her Social Security was deposited. We read her what we did, quoted her fees. We emailed her about food stamps. And anyway, she enrolled in HELPS. I was very happy to find out about what we do and get our help. So maybe I'll do one more here. This one is from, looks like from Connecticut. No, yeah, Connecticut. Mom is in her 80s, has dementia. She gets Social Security and VA benefits and the pension and a pension. And the living facility in which she lives eats up almost all the income. And mom only has one debt, and that's for American Express. They filed suit and served the other daughter who lives in New York. Mom used to live in New York, but moved a year and a half ago to Connecticut. She's in an assisted living facility in Connecticut near another daughter who contacted us. And the other sister who lives in New York was the one who was served. It says the sister's going to go to the courthouse soon to file something saying improper service. If they need help, they will need a local attorney soon, as it was a 20-day summons. Then the case should be dismissed. It could be refiled in Connecticut if they know where mom's. They could do that, but they don't have to. I mean, if they get a judgment in New York, it's only good in New York. It's not good in Connecticut. They don't even know where mom is. They'd have to transfer the judgment to Connecticut, which, as I explained earlier, is not going to happen. Okay? And we could probably enroll mom for very little or nothing. Send a letter to the attorney and let her know, hey, has dementia in an assisted living facility. All the money's going to pay. It's all are protected. She gets Social Security, the VA benefits, and the pension. Pension is all protected income. There's nothing they can do to collect. So going through the headache of trying to defend the lawsuit, kind of a waste of time. If they get a judgment, it is worthless. Now you can if you want, but it gets kind of complicated. You don't doesn't need to if she doesn't want to. Okay, well, 2 minutes to go. I heard that banks now have to report to the IRS if you open a bank deposit box. Well, I haven't heard that. Um, maybe the case. I don't know. I kind of doubt it, but um, I don't talk to too many people about. Sometimes when you get a bank account, they'll give you a free bank deposit box to try to encourage you to bank there. But most of my clients don't have a bank deposit box, and if they had one, there wouldn't be anything in it. Okay. So thanks for your participation today. Lots of good questions, and hopefully you got some answers. I will be here tomorrow, Wednesday, same time. Please share what we do with others. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube and press the like button. It's easy to do. We get a lot of clients that see us on YouTube and they enroll in helps. And you can be part of helping seniors who are desperate looking for help finding our channel. Okay. God bless and have a great day.